we're going to go ahead and use the setup of the Americana to go ahead and now look at, like, can we get to an arm triangle? And for any reason, if we fail out of this arm triangle, can we go into like an arm in Ezekiel? So I'm just going to set back up into this position where I already had control of his head. I let him kind of move me a little bit, so my hand slid back to my elbow inside to my hip to get to the inside of his arm to start to push away, to use my big toes to push this down even more and start to just get inside of his armpit. Okay? From here, if he continues to try to move, I may be able to set up again for my Americana. And for any reason, we know that from this position, if he's able to somehow beat me or he goes to bring his arm straight above his head, I'm going to feed this all the way over so that way I can start to get to my, my head-arm triangle. So I've already kind of, brought this arm over, and this is why we can use our big toes to be able to kind of follow this diagonal. Remember, we want our weight down and in, but I know this arm is kind of, not as deep as I want. So I'm going to use my weight to kind of shift this back a little bit to be able to get this more across. From this position, my head's going to kind of slide down, and I want to end up bringing my left hand and my head more towards my right hip. So I want to kind of think that right now my left hand is going to reach more towards his hip, and I bring my head down towards that as well. I can start to secure my grips. There's many different ways people like it. Palm to palm. I typically will do like a pull on a diagonal and keep that across because I want to have opposing forces. Or you can even just grab top of the palm from here. Again, I want to start to follow that diagonal down and in again. From here, I start to lean down and in, start to squeeze. If I feel like I don't have enough of squeeze, I will relax the squeeze because I want to just become more dead weight. Use my big toes to drive forward, and it becomes very tight. I don't have to squeeze this because if I squeeze here, Johnny's able to actually kind of move his arm and defend. So I relax my squeeze and I use my big toes, and if he goes to try to move now, it's separating his head and his head from his shoulder line, so his neckline. So I'm stretching out like a head and neck from there. The nice thing about this is for any reason, if Johnny gets his arm straight up above his head to defend this choke, okay? We have two different ways that we're going to go ahead and deal with this, and I'm just going to give you, the first one and then the next. Right now, I can use the back step motion of my left leg to allow him to rotate this way a little bit and take my right hand, back of my hand, all the way across, and I keep my fingers splayed. I do not make a grip. My head slides back over, and again, I'm stretching it like a rubber band. I stay on my big toes, I drive forward, and it's very tight. If his arm again, and I'm going to set this up like I'm doing a bad arm triangle again, is not in a good position, or he has that arm there, I want you to think about this. If I can't get to that back step, what is his arm typically doing? His left arm right now is reaching above his head, and he's now going to try to either get it down by pressing it down against me or whatever to kind of get back in front. I'm now going to take my left arm and imagine that I'm doing the same thing, but actually from this position. So my left arm from here is going to just reach up like I'm going to my head, and then I'm going to bring it down against him. From that same position now, all I have to do is bring my right arm the same way across his head and neck. Remember, I'm doing the back of my hand to get the blade across. My fingers are splayed. My weight is down and in. I'm on my big toes, and I get the finish.